Let's kick off our weekly Lead Champ Pro call every Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern. LeadChampLiveDials.com. That's LeadChampLiveDials.com. Join us here live on Zoom every Wednesday at 12 o'clock to hear the newest, latest, and greatest announcements about Lead Champ, our CRM and our dialer, trainings from top agents in the field making it happen. In fact, last week, Josh and Max really went deep on how Max, in just a year and a half, like in a short amount of time, has gone from complete amateur in the business to now submitting over $100,000 in 1 month. Okay, pretty incredible interview that just went live on YouTube. So make sure you take a look at that. And by the way, if you are watching us on YouTube, or if you've been watching from afar, you've been seeing all this Lead Champ stuff going on, you've been seeing the automations, you've been seeing the postcards, you've been seeing the what happened button, you've been seeing the AI booked appointments, but you're still like, man, I need to take a second and actually dive into that. Go ahead and get ahead of your New Year's resolutions, guys. Okay, January's coming up soon. Everyone says, I'm going to get organized. I'm going to do better. I'm going to follow with my clients. I'm going to get a system, right? But then they put it off. They put it off. They put it off. Okay, go to leadchamppro.com, book a demo with me today, and let me show you how we can optimize your business with LeadChamp, save you a ton of time, energy, and money with a real system for automating your business. Okay, last promo, and then we will send it over to our trainers for today. We want to talk about our Discord channel. If you aren't already in the Discord channel, you absolutely need to get in here. It's really incredible. There's a great community of people that are talking about, selling more insurance, talking about how to use LeadChamp at the top level, and also just sharing their success, right? You can see just over the last couple of days, Nicole Pacharka, 600 Americo, Jamie Cheerio, 1900 Americo, Eric Schmidt, 1700 Transamerica, Alexandria Rasak. Man, I apologize. I butchered your name, but you're crushing it. 1200 Americo, throwing it in. And then in the same day, Derek with 3600 and 1600 back to back. Let's go within a few hours. Josh Lockhart with 2100 Americo with a 1.5-year-old lead. Okay, LCP brought it back. I know for a lot of our users, that's their favorite feature, is when they have an old lead that's been in the system, getting texted for 6 months, 9 months, a year, and then finally they just message back afternoons, and AI goes, okay, great, how about 2 o'clock tomorrow? And they're booked. And it's just that simple sometimes. And then Jamie Cheerio bringing in a big old 4500 Americo IUL to a trucker lead. And Josh throwing another 2,300 in with a Moo IUL. Finally got an approval on the spot. He's been fighting for them all week. 1-year-old lead. Okay, two back-to-back for Josh that were a year-old lead, bringing him over 3,000 AP right there, which is incredible. And then a massive shout-out to Dylan Priest. One of our longtime users, has been, big promoter of LeadChamp, over the last year. And he put in a huge sale, $900,000 commission from 2 sales. Wow. And, you can see what he wrote here. Client wanted a vehicle that can allow access to their investments when needed, but also allow to continue to grow. LCP made it easy for me to send the illustrations and information without spending hours digging through the portal. So just another example of top agents using these tools to maximize their results and to spend less time, to his point, fiddling around in the portals and more time selling actual insurance. So huge shout out to all the agents that are making it happen and everyone that is posting in the Discord channel. And actually, I believe Dylan will be on Grady Polson's call tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern. So if you're trying to stay in tune with everything that's going on, catch that call tomorrow as well live and hear a little bit more about that huge sale. Okay, any other promotions I need to hit here? I don't think so. I think we want to get Josh and Jamie up here. Obviously, the reason why many people are even using LeadChamp Pro in the first place, because the guys who built it are actually out there in the field every single day, dialing the phone, making sales, like selling insurance, actually doing it. And what's cool is that every time they get an idea for a new improvement, a new idea, it originates with them being out there actually doing it. So it works for our clients. That's why a lot of people are here with us. So to be able to get the opportunity not only to use the tools they've developed, but to learn directly from them is a huge opportunity. Obviously, if you don't know them, Josh Lockhart, Jamie Cheerio, both husbands, fathers, top agents, top agency builders, co-founders of Lead Champ Pro, incredible gentlemen. They're going to be coming on today to talk about something that I believe that they are particularly qualified to talk about, which is retention. And they're qualified for this for two reasons. For one, I know back in the day in home, both Josh and Jamie, but I know in particular Jamie had like 99% retention in the home. Like he was the master of retention in in-home sales. He was leaving like people were like taking a picture with him. They were becoming best friends. They were saving his number in their phone. They had their red envelope. They were set to go. But then even after transitioning to telesales and having their retention fall off a cliff, both of them, I think losing like between 15 or 20% from in-home, which is a huge, like if you're a top producer, Hall of Fame level, that's like 80 to $100,000 in income you're losing by dropping that retention, guys. So this is no joke. But it's almost like they were personal trainers that got fat on purpose so that they could come back and show their team how to do it. Because Jamie's like 99% and then goes to telesales and it drops down a little bit. But what did he do? Him and Josh came together, built this tool, and they've both brought their retention back up 15 to 20%. Okay, changing their business. So I think that if anyone on here is looking to improve their retention, especially I heard some announcements recently like, hey, you better get your retention up or you're going to be, maybe you're, facing some consequences, right? If you're in that category, you definitely want to pay attention to what these two gentlemen can teach you on how to maximize your retention. So Josh, Jamie, thank you guys so much for being on the call. I will pass it over to you. And, I didn't have myself in the spotlight here. I apologize, but let me spotlight y'all so that everyone can see your smiling faces here.
Hey, appreciate that, Nick. Appreciate that. And hey, glad everybody can make it. Each week we try to bring some kind of value, whether it's, insurance training, it's, automations and tech or some kind of blend of the two. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And I think a lot of times retention and persistency is a boring topic. If we are like, hey, here's how you can guarantee to sell everybody and never get a no this month, that's a fun topic, but this is a profitable topic. And it does not mean that, you need to slow down from what you're doing and sell less to have better retention. It just means you have to have better practices and just, if it's not clear enough, right? If you issue pay, let's say a little over 30,000 a month, so that means every 3 months you're issuing 100,000 and you have an 80% retention. That means that you're giving back 20,000 of that. If you have a 60% retention, that means you're giving back 40,000 of that, which that's a lot. And, it's a big difference. And so if you want to not, you can have better retention and not have to work harder and give yourself a huge raise, right? And so I've said for the last year, my retention, I raised it something like 20%. And last year in 24, I issued 464. 20% of that is, what, $80,000 that I saved myself by better practices. In total, it's up even more. It's up a total of 25% as of last week. So it is a big deal. And at the end of the day, we're all in this to make money and take care of our families. So, Jamie, I wrote down 5 points that we can go through here. I think nothing that we haven't discussed before, but it's like one of those things where if you're moving really fast and you're like, why am I getting what I'm getting? Sometimes you do have to pause and kind of examine what are my practices? What am I doing? What am I not doing? What do I need to do better? So, I'm just going to jump right into it. And we didn't discuss this, Jamie, but I'm going to throw this to you first. And I would say this is you've sold big premiums over the years. I've seen you do it both in home and over the phone. But what I wrote down for my notes is you don't have to get every single dollar of premium on every single sale. What would you say about that?
Coming from the guy who says show bigger numbers is his biggest tip. Uh, anyways,
Fair enough.
you don't have to get every dollar out of every single person. So for me, specifically, like I work a lot on budget. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. When somebody comes in and they're very, um, I need this amount of coverage. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, but like let's talk about what you can actually afford. Let's talk about what you can actually keep. So I also talk about good month versus a bad month. So somebody, it's like, yeah, on a good month, I can do. I had a guy yesterday who he wanted to do $200 a month. And then he goes, you know what? Christmas is next month. Like maybe we should just wait until after the new year. And I'm like, yeah, we could definitely do that. I'm like, but let me ask you a question. Um, do you think that there's going to be another month of the year other than December that you're going to be squeezed for money? And he's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, okay. So if you can't afford this policy during the month of Christmas, what tells me that you're not going to cancel this 6 months from now when you have another hard month? So why don't we figure out a budget that it makes sense even on a bad month? Because guess what? Good months come and good months go. Bad months come, bad months go. And if you try to get this with what you can afford on a good month, you're going to cancel it on a bad month. So we probably should just figure out what you can afford on a bad month so that you don't cancel it so that your family's not left with nothing. Does that make sense? And the guy's like, yeah, let's do $100. So, in that scenario, he was pretty solid on I need X amount of coverage. And I was like, okay, I understand that you need X amount of coverage, but you're going to cancel this. He's like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, so something's better than nothing. Let's wait until either your income increases, your expenses decrease, something, and we can always jack up your premium by 50 or $100 in a few months. But let's like let this bill settle. There's nothing wrong with letting the bill settle and then adding more coverage. So a lot of the times, I have shown really big numbers, and people have been like, hey, I wasn't ready for that. Okay, well let's reduce that back to something that we know you can afford. So, I mean, the goal is to get them to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, there's different strategies. Some people show three options. If you're doing mortgage protection, maybe you just show full payoff. You top down sale, right? You start at the biggest option, you kind of work their way down until they're good. And so I think there's just some things to look out for, right? If they're saying things like, "Hey, let's put it off," or "What's the longest we can go before making a payment?" or if you're post dating a payment 30 days, maybe you should examine that. And sometimes it's really easy just to say nothing because you just want to get the yes and get off the phone. But then, you're looking at a chargeback. What are some other things that you would look out for, that maybe they say or bring up where you're like, yeah, maybe we should adjust this a little bit. Is there any other things that you can think
Well, I
of?
mean, if there's another decision maker
Yeah.
and decide to do a phone call without the other decision maker present, I had a guy the other day who wife was absolutely 100% the decision maker, and he wanted to buy it. But he was like, there's no way in heck I would buy this without my wife's permission, or she's gonna basically divorce me. So you know what? In that scenario, you got two options. One is you twist the guy's arm and you get him to submit. And then, I mean, I'm sure, Josh, you've experienced this probably personally, maybe not with insurance, but on some level of, you've experienced, a client who you convince and then their wife goes, cancel it. Otherwise, I'm going to be mad at you. And he's like, hey, man, like, other than like, I'd rather cancel this insurance and come back and get another one than my wife continue to be mad at me. So, like, he's going to cancel that when I
Yeah.
twist his arm. Like, that's going to happen most of the time. Or I reschedule when the spouse is there, and then two things happen. One, they ghost me, and it's like, okay, I never got the sale, but is it better to not get the sale than to get the sale and get a charge back? Or they answer the phone, they think about it together, and then they keep the policy. I had a guy that same guy, went that direction. And, again, many times I got to talk to my wife. I never talked to that person again. But this particular time, he said, call me back at 7:30. My wife and I will both be home. And, just as you know it, there's the wife, there's the husband on speakerphone. We go through the whole thing, and they're like, hey, we need to think about it. And I'm like, that's okay. You guys can mute out and talk about it. And then they muted out. They thought about it right there on the spot, and they came back like, okay, let's do it. And you know what? Like in that scenario, they're probably going to keep the policy because they decided together.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Because again, you know, you can say, well, I've heard people say all kinds of wild things about, can't you make a decision if I was like whatever, right? Like we know some of those things, and it's like you don't want to get people to say yes. You want to make a sale and get a client, right? Here's another one on that same line, and this is just my personal policy. Each their own. Any online banks, I just don't deal with it. Your Cash Apps, your Green Dots, your what. There's a bunch of them out there. There are some carriers that will take them, and yeah, you talk to the person, and they sound so convincing that they really really want it. I worked really hard to get my retention up, and I just don't want to deal with it. So I don't accept them. Just
Mm.
hey, we don't do that. Either you can have a real account, I don't know. That might be a little bit harsh because I know some people do, and I see like the text groups where people are looking for carriers. I just don't deal with it anymore after years of doing that.
I can't say the same. I'll take the online banks.
Yeah, send them to Jamie. He'll give you his
Yeah.
writing number.
Anybody who
Um,
online banks, send them my way. I got a carrier that'll accept them.
Yeah. All right. All right. So that's number one. Number two is don't say dumb on the phone. Jamie, what is some dumb stuff that people say that is almost assuredly gonna lead to a chargeback?
Yeah, I'm a human, and I'm still a human today, and I still say some of this stuff. Like I'll be totally honest. Like you know it when you say it, but I mean it's stuff like let's just see if we can get you approved. I mean that's the simplest one. Josh will die on this hill. I'm like halfway up this hill, and again I'm a human, and number one, I want to help the person get the insurance, and I want them to think about it well. It's being underwritten. But at the end of the day, I mean, I know for a fact that when I take somebody and I get a solid decision, um, do you want to buy this or not? So like when somebody says something like, well, why do you need my bank info? You got a couple options here. You could try to get fancy, be like, well, the reason that they need your bank info is so they can verify that you have a legitimate bank account because they don't sell it. We need to make sure there's no insurance fraud being committed, and we're just submitting a request for coverage. Or you can say, why do you need my bank account? So you can pay for it, Josh.
Yeah.
If you get approved, it's going to come out of your account. Okay, got it. It's one, two, three, four, five, six. Again, it's like I've experienced that both ways where somebody throws out an objection, why do you need my bank account? And you say, so you can pay for it. And they go, okay. And then they give you their info, and that person's ready to buy. Or they come back with, well, I didn't know that we were buying today. And now we get to slow down and have a conversation of like, no, we're applying for insurance. If you get approved, this is coming out of your account. And it gives them an opportunity to either submit the request for coverage, knowing that they're buying insurance, or run away because that's going to charge back otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say, right, doing support in some of your guys' accounts, I see the comments from clients that's like, I didn't give you permission to take my banking information, or this better not come out. And of course they had to give it to you, right? So I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is we can get really loose and not direct with our communication, and people make their own assumptions, right? And so for if somebody's post dating and they say, and this is super frustrating. It doesn't happen to me a ton, but it does happen, and I hate it every single time. You've gotten their banking, you maybe have one last signature to get, you're ready to hit submit, and then they'll say something like, well, this is not going to come out of my account, right? It's like, even if you said everything right, because maybe they were watching TV or half paying attention, and you can't see them, you don't know what they're doing or not doing, and so you can say something like, oh yeah, it's it's you'll get approved, and then we'll talk. Like there's a bunch of things you can say just to kind of skirt by it and hit submit. Or you can say, yeah, once you're approved, we pick the 5th, it's coming out of your account, or in the next 48 hours, it's coming out of your account. And then they object and you handle it then, and maybe you get it, maybe you lose it. I would say, like, I don't want to get that email in a couple of days that's, XYZ carrier notice. And it's like, or, they're all upset. Now I have to deal with that because I got enough stuff to deal with. Right. And so, be direct, tell them what's going to happen. Right. And it's, I'll say it like this. They'll say, well, we're just seeing if I can get approved. Like sometimes they think that. And I'm like, well, John, listen, when you apply for an insurance policy, you're asking the insurance company, hey, I'd like to get some coverage. And if they approve you, the intent is you're going to take it and pay for it. Right. So we're going to send it off. You said you get paid on Friday. If and when you're approved, I'm going to let you know. But on Friday, it's coming out and you'll have coverage day one on Friday. They're like, okay. And so that way, you've said your piece. There's no misunderstanding. I think that's the biggest thing. No misunderstandings. Say what it is. Tell them what's going to happen. And if they just don't like it, it's okay. It's okay. Now, with that said, I say it's okay. Jamie's got a smirk on his face. He's like, I'm going to get that in the boat. But here's the deal. If you feel like you have to do that to get one in because you have to hit your numbers, you got to pay your rent, that is a sign that your activity of calling and setting appointments is not where it needs to be. You're not setting enough appointments because if you had so many appointments and you lost one, who cares? You have so much activity, it's not concerning. But if you're having a week, because you didn't put your numbers up, you didn't have enough appointments, something happened, you were busy, and you're like, oh man, I gotta get this one in because I have to, make my numbers that I set for myself. You just didn't have enough activity. So it's still your fault. Okay. So be, overwork on the front end so you don't have to, get all soft and weak as a salesperson on the back end. All right. So yeah, don't say dumb and I'm blurbing that out for YouTube. All right. Number three. If we probably should just say this on every call for the rest of calls of Lead Champ is use the what happened button. I mean, use the tools. And so if anybody is not aware, right, every time you hit the what happened button, specifically when you make a sale, whether it's in underwriting or it's been approved, a message goes out with everything that you just did, right? The carrier, the policy number, the price, the why they want it, their beneficiaries, all the things, okay? And Jamie, do you remember when you specifically when you're in the house? It still happens over the phone, but you talk to John and John goes, "Yeah, I already got some coverage." And you go, "What do you have?" What does he say? "I don't know." "What carrier is it?" "I don't know." "Who's your agent?" "I don't know." "Go grab it." "I don't know where it's at." And so yeah, that's not good. But if you're using Lead Champ and you're using the button, your clients are going to know this is everything that I have. This is who I have it with. I know what's going on. I know what's going to happen. And in addition to that, Jamie, talk to us about that note section of putting in their why and how important that is, and anything you can add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about best practices if you have the time, which I recently have not had the time, but when I'm like not rushed to go to another appointment, like I have my generic things that I do. So after every IUL appointment, when I get to that, what happened? Why did they get this policy? I have a very generic to make sure if they pass away, they can leave money behind for their loved ones, to have coverage if they become sick or disabled, and to be able to save tax-free retirement into a savings account, IUL, blah, 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 blah. And I have like a copy paste thing that I grab when I don't have a lot of time and I'm just trying to move on. And I want to make sure something's there so they at least have a generic memory of why they got it. If it was mortgage protection, to make sure if they pass away, the house is paid off. Like equity protection, to make sure if they pass away that Mary has at least 12 months worth of mortgage payments, blah, 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 blah. Like, whatever it is, to make sure that her son can pay for a funeral and not have to come out of pocket and feel burdened. Like you collected that why on the front end. So you should make sure it's as personalized as possible. So I've got some generic ones when I'm like back to back on appointments and I just want to quickly hit the what happened button so I can move on to my next appointment. But when I have time, especially when I'm selling an IUL or especially when I sell a big premium, I don't do this every time. And if I could do this every time, I would. I would take 3 minutes and record a loom of myself, reminding them with my voice and potentially with a visual aid of why we submitted for this policy and copy paste that into the why section with that so that they can rewatch that. So if you have an
Yes.
illustration, you can go back over the illustration. If they have questions, hey, go back to our text message, click on the loom. I think that's a really big deal. I've done a lot of that after the fact. So like, I started doing it more when clients were like, they wanted phone calls to like go back over their policy. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just record something for 90 seconds to 3 minutes going back over their policy because they have agents that are calling them, especially when I'm doing IULs and I structured the policy in a like a blended focus, and they get some agent who calls and was like, "Oh, that's BS. I can't believe he structured it that way. Max fund every time." And I'm like, "Well, actually, if you would have had a conversation with Mary, Mary wants to put in 200 bucks a month, but Mary actually, really wants to put in 400 a month, but she can't afford 400. So I would give Mary some wiggle room to be able to add extra money throughout the year. And that's why we did it this way. But Mary doesn't remember that. She barely remembers why we got the policy. So to be able to have that there to remind her. So it's like in that video, hey, Mary, if some other agent calls you and says this, tell them to F off. Like it's a reminder. So all of those things, I think that why section is so incredibly important. And if we can just spend a little bit more time there, when someone goes to cancel, you can bring that back up. Like I make everybody who wants to cancel schedule an appointment with me for the most part. Um, and then it's like I go back to that section and I'm like, hey, I had a guy yesterday who he's a truck driver who this wasn't even a cancellation. This was just a guy who was like, I don't want to apply anymore. But I wrote down his why in the notes section and I was like, hey, are you still a truck driver today? You were last week. He's like, yeah. I'm like, is your job still super dangerous? Yeah. You still have no life insurance? Yeah. I'm like, so why don't you want this anymore? And he's like, you're right. I don't know. Like, but it's just like you got to remind him of these things. Otherwise, it's just another bill. It's not like a valuable thing.
No, that's good. That's good. I just did that the other day. I enrolled a trucker. He was going down the road. I mean, he definitely wanted it, but at the same time, I'm like, there's no shot that he remembers all this stuff, right? And so on the form, I clicked uploaded the copy of the application that automatically went to him in the email. And just like you said, as soon as I got off, I took 3 minutes. I recorded a loom going through the illustration. Here's what it is. Here's why we did it this way. Here's why you said it was important to you. Sent him that, he's going to want to show his fiance. So it's like, hey, it's in the video. Not
Mhm.
only that, but like you said, let's say he or a client in 3 months or 6 months has an issue. I'm not going to remember why we did what we did. There's no shot. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. But I can go back and watch the video and read my notes and go, ah. And I had a guy one time who was trying to cancel, and I was like, same thing. I was like, hey, John, okay, you said the reason that we're doing this is dot dot dot. Is that still the case? He's like, yeah. And then he gave me objection, and I said, I know we talked about that, but when we talked about that, and basically I used his own words to overcome the objection that he had because we talked about it and because I kept notes and the system saved it for me. And so finally he's like, do you write down everything I say? And I said, well, yeah, John. I mean, in order to serve you to get what you want, I have to understand who you are and what you actually want. And so, yes, I write everything down. He's like, yeah, I guess it's pretty smart. And he kept it. Um,
One other
so
thing I'll add to that, Josh, is not only do I fill out the what happened button every time, but I always at the end, this might seem like overkill. I don't care because there's no automation attached to it. I kind of tell them I'm going to spam them a little bit as soon as we get off the phone. I resend the product brochure, I resend my license, I resend the video on how IULs work, and I even send them my booking link. And I say, save all of this. I go, hey, this is my cell phone we're talking on right now. I just sent you a bunch of stuff from the office line. If you ever want to talk to me, save that booking link. Save it, and it'll be there. And if you book on my calendar, I'll be there every single time. If you just try to randomly call me, I'm probably not going to answer. So it's
yep.
like I make sure, like I was on the phone with the husband and wife yesterday, and the wife had bought a policy from me last week, and the husband's thinking about it. And it was like we're on the phone with both of them, and we're thinking about getting the husband a policy. And I'm like, on the phone with the husband, sending the husband all of the info on the wife's policy so that he doesn't convince her to cancel her policy. And ultimately, it does, convince him to submit a policy himself. But now it's like, both husband and wife have my VMU site. Both of them have the 6-minute video on how IULs work. Both of them have a brochure on how, Americo, AM Best Score, all of that stuff. So it's like, at no point, if anybody says anything weird to me about how like I didn't give them any info, or it's not true. I gave them everything that I could possibly give them, and if they didn't read it, if they didn't look at it, that's 100% on them. I had a guy who legitimately told me that I bamboozled him the other day. He said, "Yeah, you bamboozled me," and
Oh
and,
no.
I went back and I looked at our entire conversation. And he legitimately, like, it was like, congratulations, you're approved. He's like, that's amazing. So does it come out on the 20th? I'm like, yes, it does. He goes, okay, I'll be ready. Thanks so much. And then, like, I go back through and it's like texting him, like, hey, did your policy come in the mail? Yep, it came in the mail. Hey, do you have any questions on your policy? It's been 30 days. He goes, nope, no questions. Everything's good. And then 2 months later, he's like, you bamboozled me. And I went back and I screenshotted all of that. I'm like, does this look like you've been bamboozled? He goes, please never contact me again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I did what I could do.
Yeah, well, and that we bring this up from time to time, right? Like that can happen, and then they can file like a complaint with the carrier, and the carrier will reach out to you, and they'll go, "Hey, like what happened here?" And if you don't have any records on that, like, you
I've,
know,
I've won every single complaint that's ever been made against me. I've been doing this for now almost 5 years, and I think I've had 5 complaints with Americo, in the home and out of the home, and I've won every single one. I've had people who've said they've been buying insurance from me for 2 years, and they're like,
yeah,
he bamboozled me 2 years ago, and I'm like, no, I did not.
yep.
Here's
I
my
had a
process, and here's all my messages and all my proof.
Exactly. My second week in the business, I made this big sale in this guy's home. He had the policy for 2 years and then hit up the insurance carriers and was like, he was never my home. And I mean, he just made up a story. And luckily, this guy had a really cool home. He had a bunch of antique guns, and I took pictures of them. I'm like, oh, let's take pictures. It was so cool. And so, like, I had screenshots and pictures of me in this guy's house selling him insurance and him going, hey, thank you, and all this stuff. And that's the thing is you're not, you typically don't have that if you're just doing telesales and you're a lone wolf. What kind of records, if that happens, it's not going to happen a lot. Hopefully, never, once or twice, maybe once a year. But when it does, you'll be so glad that you have documentation. The system is reaching out, and it's like, oh yeah, I let them know we applied. I let them know they're approved. I checked in them about their policy. They responded back. You're going to have records of all that, which is also just going to make you seem really, really professional, and more people are going to want to work with you, refer you, and that kind of thing. Um, Last point, right? So if you use the what happened button, your clients will get all this follow up, right? They're going to get followed up, letting them know about what's going to happen. They're going to get thank you cards. They're going to get upsell messages and postcards about children's whole life and FIAs and retirement. It's going to check them about their policy and all these different things if you use it. If you don't use it, then they'll get nothing. And you're really just hoping that you said the magical words on the phone. Like agents will tell me this. We've talked about this, Jamie. They'll be like, well, I don't need all that because my clients love me. And it's like, so you're saying you had a conversation with a stranger for an hour one day, and for the rest of time, you guys just have this special connection because you said the right things on the phone. Like, really? You know what I mean? Um, yeah, you think your friends, they'll turn on you in a second if they think that you were less than 100% honest. And it doesn't even have to be a fault of yours. It could just be circumstantial, or like the guy that Jamie was talking about, maybe he had a change of heart and he's taking it out on Jamie, even though all of the things were there. Now, a caveat to that, if you're saying some slick stuff on the phone, Lead Champ is not going to save you and save those clients, right? But if you're doing it right, it's going to enhance and make better what you're already doing. So, with that said, with all these messages going out, undoubtedly, hopefully, your clients are going to message you back. Okay. And if you have Lead Champ right now, go look at your inbox. And if it has over 50 messages, get to work. Shame on you. Go clear those out. I guarantee you have leads and clients that are talking to you and you haven't got back to. Let a week go by and you don't respond to one of your clients, they will never forgive you. They'll probably cancel. Happened to me just this week. I actually had a lady who canceled her annuity, and it was so ridiculous, right? I met her in person and we set her up with an annuity and everything was great. I met her a couple of times, and then in between the policy issuing and getting mailed, she moved, right? And so I physically mailed her policy, I did, to her original location. Okay. And this was when we were in one of the events, Jamie, maybe Arizona or whatever. She called me, and we were in an event halfway across the country, and I didn't call her back until like the next week. And she was super upset. She's like, "Well, you could have stopped what you're doing and calling me." I was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. Like, what's up?" She's like, "Well, I never got my policy." I was like, "I mailed it to you." And she's like, "Oh, it must have went to my old address. I'll go check and let you know." Now, she told me she was going to check and let me know. So a week goes by, she calls me again, and she's all upset. She's like, "You never followed up with me." I was like, "Yeah, you said you would call and let me know." And I was wait I assumed either you got it or you would let me know like you said. And she's like, "No, you should have followed up with me." So no matter what she did wrong, it was my fault. Okay. So my point in that is you have to talk to your clients, right? The system wishes them happy birthday. They're, "Hey, thanks so much." Just message them back. If they have a problem, deal with it today, not tomorrow, right? If they missed a payment, click the missed payment button today, not tomorrow, because that's your highest chance to get it. I had another situation. This was totally my fault. I wrote this guy an NLG policy. On an NLG, when you're doing the premium inputs, it automatically reverts to annual, and you have to change it to monthly on the illustration. And I forgot to hit that button. Okay, so instead of $200 for the month, it charged him $2,400 came out of his account, and he was so upset. And but he was a client for a year previously, and he had gotten all the postcards from us. And I was like, "Hey man, like totally messed up on that one. We can, here's some options to fix it." And we went through those options, and he was like, "Hey man, I gotta ask you a question. Do you send those postcards? Do you write those?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." He's like, "You don't have a company that did like you did that?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Why? What's up?" He goes, "Man, that New Year's one, that brought me to tears. That was so great. I can tell you're somebody who really cares." And he's like, and so he brushed it under the rug. We fixed it, and I kept the client. Anybody else would have been like, "Screw you, you scam artist, whatever." And it was my fault. But because A, he got the message in the postcards, and B, when he did have a problem, I called him right away, and I was in communication with him the whole way. We saved the client. So if you're just hoping that LeadCamp's going to do 100% of everything and you never have to pay attention to your inbox or your phone, that is also not true. You have to talk to your customers. And what we found out, undoubtedly, that if you talk to your customers, they tend to stay. It's kind of a wild concept. Anything you'd add to that, Jamie?
Um, yeah, I mean, before I had help managing all this stuff, whether it was my amazing assistant Gia, who's on here, who crushes it
Shout
on
out
the
to
client side
Gia.
of things, or Lead Champ, I dreaded client phone calls. I
Yeah,
assumed that they were going to cancel. I didn't want to talk to people. And a lot of the times they canceled because of my lackadaisical attitude of following up. Like we have a guy while we're on the call right now, literally just happening. So again, shout out to Gia 'cause she's helped me monitor my inbox, but it's like, my client Clayton missed a payment. She hit the missed payment button. And then he's following up being like, "Hey, you can run the payment today." And then Gia's like, "Hey, I just hit up Mutual of Omaha. They just reran the payment. Here's the confirmation." And now guess what? We can go hit the change policy status, once that goes to policy current. And now he's out of the policy canceled or policy lapsed, missed payment automation, and he's back on the client automation. So it's like it's working in real time.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's just, yeah, our old customer service plan before Lead Champ was to sign them up and never talk to them and hope they forgot about it. Um,
Until annual review time. when I would call them to sell them more insurance, and they'd be like, I canceled that 6 months ago. I'm like, actually, I
Yeah,
had no idea. Do you want to buy some more insurance?
that's happened. That's happened. So,
Yeah.
yes. So, use the tools. That's what they're there for. Use the tool, don't be the tool. Um, and so if you're using the what happened button and you're just, you're following some very basic principles of not trying to oversell people, not trying to, you know, get them to think this is just an application. They're not actually purchasing insurance, not trying to slide around, any of their not even objections, but just concerns, right? Sometimes it's just a concern, it's not an objection. And then we say some fancy thing, and then they're going to interpret that however they do, which is maybe not what you actually said. And then we just follow some good practices and note taking, and it literally takes 1 minute, 120 seconds tops to input it in the what happened button, hit submit, and it's going to send and do the rest.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not complicated. It's not rocket science. You just have to be disciplined and have some good practices on every single call. Because again, if I can do this, I am an unorganized, disheveled mess. I barely got out of bed and dressed this morning if it wasn't for my wife and kids. So if I can hit the what happened button and type a few sentences and just, pay attention to my clients, I know you can too, because you guys are a bunch of great looking professional people, especially Sheila Day. But anything else you would add before we close out on this topic, Jamie?
Yeah, typically, like when I end an appointment, I always spend just like a quick minute letting the client know, hey, I'm trying to be your agent for life. Like I throw that in there at the end of every single appointment. And I'm like, hey, Bob, I want to let you know, like, I'm super transparent. I'm very easy to find. I told you this is my cell phone. I sent you a link to verify my license and credentials. My home address is on there. Google me. You can find me. I got kids. I got a wife. I got way too much to lose. So if I mess this up, like I can get in big trouble and I can lose everything that we built here. So like I'm not trying to do you wrong. Bob, I'm trying to be your agent for life. So God forbid something happens, Mary here, she's gonna call me. She's gonna call me. She's gonna call my office manager, Gia. We're gonna wait on hold with the insurance carrier. We're gonna figure it out. We'll take care of it. Worst day of your life happens, and your family can sit there and wait on hold, or they can call us and we'll take care of it and get all the paperwork and say sign here. Like, you could deal with, go buy an insurance policy online and have no agent, or you can have an agent who goes to bat for you. Again, my goal is to be your agent for life. Does that sound good? And like, I say it a little different every time, but I always say my goal is to be your agent for life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good to like I like to restate at the end after we've done everything and submitted, restate what's going to happen. Hey,
Mhm.
you're going to get this message, and then we're going to let you know when it's approved, and then the payment's going to come out, and then the policy is going to show up in the mail. I'm going to check on you at the end of the year. You're going to get a postcard text email from me to get an annual review. We're going to get back on. Here's what we're going to talk about. And again, just letting them know, like, hey, there is a plan. We're not just throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks. Even if sometimes you think it's going to get declined, there's those times where it's like, hey, we're doing this and you have this and this and this. And, so I might even tell them, hey, if it gets a decline, don't worry about it. I'll reach out to you. We'll get back on the phone. We'll look at other options just to kind of, because if they know the plan and know that you got them, then they'll go along with it. So, appreciate you, Jamie. Appreciate everybody for tuning into this, and hopefully you can put some of these things into practice and see an extra 5 or 10% over the next months or year on your retention. That means more income into your household. And if you have not been hitting the what happened button, make sure to do that on every single sales call that you do, and or if you're not on lead champ, go get that done right away. Get with Nick, leadchamppro.com. Tomorrow inside of the Discord, we will be on doing a power hour. So if you want to come dial with us, set appointments, hear what that's about, that's going to be in live dials inside of the Lead Champ Discord. And yes, all these calls are recorded. You can go over to our YouTube channel, Lead Champ Pro on YouTube, subscribe, and we have a bunch of videos there. You can go check out Max's video just dropped. That was a great interview. I enjoyed it. That was a ton of value. So if you want to know how to crush it in 2025 on a shoestring budget and ramp it up to 100 grand a month, go check out that video. With that said, everybody have a great day. Take care for now.